For all of you who listen to Submersion and own an Android device, go to the Google Play Store and download the Podcast Republic app. It's a fantastic app that allows you to get all of your favorite podcasts directly on your Android device. I personally use the app and I love it. I can search for the podcast I want to listen to, select it as a favorite, and have it just a click away. Make sure to select Submersion as a favorite so you don't miss any of our new episodes. Again, the app is the Podcast Republic app, available on Android devices.
Episode 78.
Woo!
And we are back for week 2 of Brahms Movie Month. Brahm, that's me.
Nice.
Brahm.
And what?
Nothing. Go on.
Okay. I will proceed by letting you all know that we watched a film franchise near and dear to my heart. This is one of the only comic book series that I really got into, and I don't know why that was. It's just kind of one of the longest running, actually, now, if I think about it, back into then it would have been almost the late 1990s, early 2000s when I think the first one came out. No, it would have been, early 2000s when the first one came out. Still going, but I think they're going to be merging with the rest of the Marvel comic universe here before long.
I did have a little blip about that.
Sure. What do you got?
I did read that the Disney guy, the head of Disney or whatever, they did say that they are completely done with anything with these actors, this series, what Dark Phoenix is the last one of that.
It's going to be the end. Yeah, it's going to be the end.
Life.
Yep.
Fine. Yeah. So.
It should have been, because I heard bad things, and it's the only one I haven't watched is Dark Phoenix.
Well, we just watched it for badmovietwins.com. That's badmovietwins.com. We actually watched that as one of our 4 live movies that we do every year, the second of the 4 that will eventually be watched. And so I had to go back and watch this entire series other than actually this one because I'd already seen it. And it was just so far before Dark Phoenix that I was like, hey, I probably won't inform too much of what I'm going to say about it. But
well, what did you have?
Saw it in theaters.
You only have really 2 movies, right?
What's that?
You only would have had then 2 movies. You had a recap on then Days of Future Past and Apocalypse.
Well, so the thing is Days of Future Past didn't qualify. And I don't think neither did Apocalypse. I think it just got above the 40%. It wasn't super well regarded, and that was my least favorite. I didn't like that one more than Dark Phoenix. I thought Dark Phoenix was actually slightly better than
Apocalypse.
So yeah, depending on what you thought of Apocalypse, that might inform whether it'd be worth.
It's not my countdown tonight, so I'm happy to talk about it. The one we watched, I might as well say it at this point.
Yeah, we have to right at this point.
X-Men First Class is the movie we will be recapping tonight and chatting about. I would put it at 4, I think, on my list here. I think provided you rule out Deadpool, some people count Deadpool as X-Men movies.
Why is that, Ben, as a very non-educated X-Men person?
He's more fringy. He kind of exists in the X-Men universe, but I mean, so does all of your Marvel comic heroes, just not in the, films and everything. But he truly exists alongside X-Men, currently right now. The X-Men kind of don't ever really show up in the Marvel comic universe movies, but Deadpool does, and he shows up at the Professor Xavier's mansion and recruits a few of the X-Men kind of to help him here and there, and they want him to be a formal, X-Men and fight for good.
Oh, yeah. I saw Deadpool, and I didn't know what the hell was going on in that scene.
Yeah. It's actually kind of funny because they're real tongue-in-cheek, obviously, and they break the fourth wall all the time, and he mentions that this is all they could afford. They got Colossus and Team Mega Death Punch or whatever the hell her name is. Those are all they could afford.
I'll take this time now for the listeners to hear that this is my first ever X-Men movie I've ever seen.
It's pretty incredible too. I think I've seen all of them now.
Yeah, and in talking with Zach prior to the podcast, it was really funny. So I told him to save it for the podcast. But he's like, I didn't realize that Kevin Bacon was Magneto. And that's what they were doing. I'm like, he's not. No, he's Sebastian Shaw, and Magneto takes the helmet and has it at the end. He's like, oh. And I'm like, so yeah, Michael Fassbender is Magneto. He's like, oh, I didn't get that.
And he's even though at the very end, he's like, I am Magneto.
And I didn't realize Magneto was a bad guy. So
Well,
Yeah.
this movie would make it a little confusing. To be fair,
Yeah, and in the comics too, he definitely toes the line a lot more so than some of your supervillains.
Right, yeah.
And that's kind
I
of what
think
makes him one of the
yeah.
more interesting characters. Is
I was going to say exactly that, and we'll get into it more as we're recapping and stuff like that. But I think it makes it a really interesting dynamic between him and Charles Xavier, regarding like just the morality and kind of this. I don't know. It's like, yes, he's obviously a horrible person who's like killing people, but they are a little bit two sides of the same coin. Like, and they, in this movie in particular, they make Charles Xavier seem like such a dick. Oh man, he's such a dick that, you do sympathize with where, Magneto's coming from.
Maybe that's
In a
why
lot of
they
time.
used a coin in this movie.
OMG.
OMG.
That's going to be,
that was the other one though. He's Zach's like, I know there's like a bald guy that shows up in the series too. I'm like, yeah, that's
Jesus.
James McAvoy's character.
right.
Dude, I don't know anything about him.
He keeps on cracking jokes about how he's going to lose his hair and shit.
Yeah,
So.
that happened at least twice.
I didn't get that until our discussion earlier, Ben. I really
You're
didn't even
just
man.
not an X-Men expert. You're not an expert.
Huh.
Yep.
All right, well, let's crack on into this.
I was actually going to say, normally this is where Kyle would be like, this discussion is terrible.
And this is
should
usually
end.
then where Zach would say, hang on a sec.
Hang on a
Talk
sec.
amongst yourselves. And we would then come up with something else to talk about. So where do you rank the new, having just watched First Class, where do you rank the 4? Yeah, there'd be 4 now of the,
Yep.
I don't know what
Days
you'd
of
call
Future
it.
Past, this one, oh boy, Dark Phoenix, and then Apocalypse probably
Yeah.
would be my last. In the end.
Gotcha, yeah.
Dive!
What began as an innocent conversation among friends would soon spiral out of control and later be referred to by future generations as the eighth wonder of the modern world. Mac East Studios takes you on the journey of your lifetime as your captains Alex the Mustard Man, the artist formerly known as Brom, Jamie the Ointment, Kyle El Capitan, and Zach the Backbone present Submersion.
All right. We are diving deep onto this, but is there anything we want to say before we start the recap? Anything about casting and this wasn't nominated for any Oscars, right? It didn't get any sound or
I don't think
production
so.
stuff.
I
don't think so.
I didn't see anything about awards. The casting
know
though
it-
was awesome.
Screen Actors Guild Award nominees.
Yeah, I
some
was gonna
stuff
say there's
like
probably
that.
some
Ensemble
smaller
cast.
ones. I don't think it got Oscar nominations though. It was originally supposed to be part of, and this kind of trivia or whatever, but kind of introduces a little bit of where we're coming from. Is it was originally supposed to actually be like an X-Men Origins. I don't know if you remember that X-Men Wolverine, like X-Men Origins.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. And
My
before-
worst.
Yeah, before Dark Phoenix, it was the only one that had ever qualified for BMT. And then Dark Phoenix came out and actually eclipsed it as having, it had worse reviews somehow than X-Men Origins. But they had all these origins planned, which included Storm and then Magneto. And this was started as kind of the Magneto X-Men Origins.
So I do have something I need to bring up here. So like I just said, I'm not an X-Man expert. You know, this is the only movie I've ever seen. I don't even know the characters that well, like who's good, who's better, who's doing anything. But when I was looking up all these X-Men movies, and I found out like, holy crap, there seems to have been an X-Men movie like one every 2 or 3 years over the last 20 years, which I had no idea about. They sound kind of clunky because there was one movie that like went back and made an entire movie not happen anymore. Or
No,
something.
not just one movie. It made a
Multiple?
whole bunch of movies
See,
not happen.
this is the stuff
happen.
that I
Talking about
found-
Days of Future Past.
I
Days
guess.
of Future Past made all of the original series not happen, technically.
Well, so when you say the original series, like we're talking like early 2000s
The original
films?
3. Yeah, there was one
Yeah,
in
X-Men,
2000
X2,
which
X3,
kicked it
yeah.
off. I thought that trilogy, I like that trilogy better than where we're at with the series now. But yeah, they kicked off in 2000. Obviously a lot of overlap in characters, in Days of Future Past, which is really cool how they kind of weave in, both storylines. You have like young Magneto and old Magneto. You have young, Charles Xavier and old Charles Xavier. So you've got, James McAvoy and, Patrick Stewart, and you got Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender. So it was really cool that they went back and were able to do all of that. So it's not like they were erasing it like we were talking about before the podcast with Terminator, where they're just like suddenly saying things are no longer canon. It's not a reboot or anything like that either. It actually merges the two universes and kind of rewrites how the history goes, because Charles actually dies in the third movie, Charles Xavier.
Right.
So they rescue him as one of their main sort of checkpoints in kind of rewriting history.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now,
go ahead.
Hugh Jackman has always played Wolverine, right?
Yep.
Are you saying Hugh Jackman or Huge Ackman?
Huge Jackman.
Oh, Huge Jackman.
Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. I see. Okay.
But no, like, I mean, when he showed up in
Yes,
this movie,
he is always playing Wolverine.
that
He's never not
was
playing
like the
Wolverine.
biggest curveball for me, because I'm like, why does he look like the same age? That doesn't make any sense to me. But
He's Wolverine.
which
He
apparently
doesn't age.
Yeah.
He fought,
He doesn't age.
I
if
didn't
you
know
watch
that.
Origins,
God,
he
this
fought in the
podcast
Civil
is
War.
hilarious. I think.
He fought in the Civil War, World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War. I
This
believe.
is
Right.
sitting down trying to explain X-Men to somebody that doesn't know anything about it. It's like trying to
X-Men,
explain.
Jesus.
It's like trying to explain Dragon Ball Z to somebody that's never even watched the
Right.
show. It's crazy,
You're like Goku. Come on.
right?
That's his name, right? Is that his name?
Goku. Yep. So now I can
The way
talk
we're
about that.
going, we can make like a 6-episode series on this one movie, just jumping around, much like the movies do.
Yeah. All right. X-Men First Class. Shall we get into it?
Yes, ton of great
All right.
actors. I think that's kind of where you were going with that. James
Yes,
McAvoy,
yeah.
Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, the dynamic young actress who's been blowing up, plays Mystique. Had Oliver
Raven.
Platt in
Let's
there.
go straight.
Yes.
Yeah, Oliver Platt's kind of a small role in the end because he gets totally owned by
Yeah.
some of the mutants.
He does get
Rose
killed.
Byrne, she's in there. January Jones,
Kevin
is in there.
Bacon
Kevin
plays
Bacon.
our main villain.
Love
January
Kevin.
Jones is a terrible actress.
Yeah. Kevin Bacon's a listener, so love you, Kevin. Love you, Kev.
Love you, Kev.
Zoe Kravitz, Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah, I didn't even recognize Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah.
She looked great, I gotta say. But yeah, a whole bunch of young actors who have actually gone on and continued to do stuff, like a bunch of the Young Mutants and stuff. So really, really strong top to bottom cast in the end.
Yep.
And so
Absolutely.
we open, and it opens dark. And I actually really like this. There's kind of a juxtaposition between how Eric Lesher, right?
Lyncher.
Yeah, Lyncher, aka Magneto, how he kind of grew up as compared to Charles Xavier grew up. And it's kind of juxtapositioning, crazy enough, the Holocaust, which is where Eric is, and he's being brought into a camp in Poland. And we see the first glimpse of his powers. His mom is taken away from him. The anger of that kind of produces this great power from his mutation that he's able to bend the gates before they knock him out. And up in a window, the evil scientist, at the time named Klaus Schmidt, but we'll know him as Shaw in this movie, he sees him and goes, ooh. And then we kind of jump back and forth between Charles Xavier living in a gigantic mansion where his dad basically doesn't show up at all. And then his mom is there in the kitchen. He's like, what are you doing in the kitchen? And the mom's like, I'll make you some hot chucky. And he's like, you're not my mom because my mom doesn't love me. And it turns out that it's actually Mystique, aka Raven at that point. She's a little girl and she obviously has this mutation that's very kind of shocking to look at. And so she doesn't really have anyone and is in hiding and stuff like that. And Charles Xavier's like, you live with me now. You now are my sister.
And says, I'm happy to know I couldn't be the only one, as if
Right.
to suggest that he has powers as well.
Right. And so they're all mutants, and kind of the implication, as we'll see, is that it's actually the radiation from like nuclear bombs and stuff like that, testing and World War II that started these mutated processes. Although technically it's also implied that there are just naturally sometimes people with mutations as well throughout time. It's ramped up because of the nuclear power that's being used. And so we see some more of Eric kind of realizing his power in a kind of a really sad, shocking scene where Shaw kind of tries to exploit his anger by killing his mom in front of him to get him to use his power. And this succeeds, and it's actually like fairly upsetting in the end. You're like, that's really sad. And this is where I feel like they're really trying to, it's interesting how they paint it. They show this kid, Charles Xavier, living in New York in this cushy mansion being like, look at us. We're just like a couple of mutants living here. This is great. And then you see Eric, whose life is a living hell because this Nazi scientist is like, your mutation is how we're going to dominate the world. And it really starts to be like, yeah, no, I kind of see Magneto's point here because his life really sucks. So anyways, we flash forward to 1962. Eric is trying to track down Nazis. It was interesting that it was such a long period afterwards. Like, there was a little bit of a question here of what exactly, or what the process here was for Eric to go from that camp all the way to 1962, where he's searching for Shaw. But that's kind of brushed over. In the original draft of this, I guess it started in World War II and went until 1955 or something. So it's a much shorter time frame. This larger time frame makes it a little bit odd. But he sees in Argentina trying to track down Shaw. He finds two of his compatriots. They have a pretty cool scene where he kind of confronts them. It's very Tarantino-esque a little bit, almost like Inglourious Bastards, where they're like joking and laughing, and then all of a sudden it becomes clear why Eric's there, and he kills them in very Magneto way by using his magnetic powers.
This elicited a reaction from Zach that, wow, Michael Fassbender is pretty badass in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, they jump right back to big old brain Charles Xavier. He's like in the process of writing his thesis. He's going to become a professor, aka doctor of genetics. And he's just like using his mutation and his mind reading abilities to like hit on ladies and stuff. And you're like, ooh, kind of a dick. You kind of suck, man. And here you have this one guy who's like hunting down Nazis and another one who seems like he's like a drunk asshole a little bit right now. So it's very interesting. And actually it continues through the series of people kind of being to Charles like, stop being a dick, man. Try not to be such a dick. So anyways, Raven, his quote unquote, sister, played by Jennifer Lawrence, is clearly in love with him. But he's not really seeing that. He doesn't really see it that way. He also is pretty adamant that, her mutation needs to be like hidden and stuff, which becomes like a big plot point for Raven and Magneto as well. So anyways, we also get a jump over to the third storyline and kind of the start of the main storyline of what the movie is actually about, which is Moira McTaggart, a CIA agent, follows a U.S. general to the Hellfire Club in Las Vegas and kind of jumps into the middle of this, like goes undercover, like immediately without any backup or anything.
Did you put your glasses on when she stripped down?
I mean, she's a beautiful lady, so yes, obviously I was wearing my glasses to make sure I saw everything very clearly on the video screen. January Jones was also there, and she was also in her skivvies, right?
Yes, she was, yeah.
Can't get over that name.
Some lingerie.
What, January Jones?
January Jones, yeah.
And just to jump out a little bit, she is, and no offense, also a listener, January, love you, but you are not a great actress at this point. You have some growing to do.
Yeah, I thought I said that when we were running through the names there.
Not great.
We just had Denise Richards, and The World Is Not Enough.
I would say still better than Denise Richards.
Yeah,
sorry, Denise.
It's
also
close
a
though. They're in the same tier, I would say.
Right. Yeah. And so she actually witnesses the mutants. She sees a bunch of mutants. You see Azazel, who is pretty cool. The dad of, what's his name? Nightcrawler.
Yes.
Who
the
can
red
kind of do the same
Nightcrawler,
thing.
basically.
Yeah. He can kind of do the same power of kind of jumping through space and kind of appearing and disappearing. It has this like sharp tail and super sword action. Then a guy I didn't care for, he was like the one with the whirlwinds. He almost was like Whirlwind from Iron Man animated series. And I was like, fuck this dude. I don't like him. You're reminding me of Iron Man animated series. And I don't like anyone reminding me
of Storm a little bit too, kind of the antithesis.
January Jones also had a weird power. She's a telepath, but she also can turn into crystal.
Yep.
Or I guess her name is Frost, so maybe ice. I think it's crystal, like it's diamond. And she looked like real lame. I don't know.
CGI
she
was
looked
a little
not great.
awkward with that, and she's actually a pretty big character in the comic books. They, like you were saying, that Whirlwind guy was kind of a deep grab to pull him out of the comics. But Emma Frost is kind of a big villain and member of the Hellfire Club, but never been a fan of her.
Yeah, and then it turns out that Shaw actually also is a mutant. We find that out a little bit later, but may as well mention it here. He can kind of absorb power, or like energy, and then release it, and it also keeps him young. It was a question, like when they showed Kevin Bacon playing the Nazi, I was like, hold on a second. Like, is he going to be an old man makeup? I'd forgotten. Is he going to be an old man makeup the rest of this movie? And then he shows up and he looks like even younger and has like an American accent. And I'm like, now I'm just totally confused. Is this his son?
I was also very confused.
Then they explain it, that he basically absorbs this energy. It keeps him young, and he can also release it almost like a bomb. And, you know, it's part of his plan to rule the world. So anyways, she witnesses, Moira Montagu witnesses these mutants. She runs out of there. She calls up the CIA and is like, yo, bros, figure out what's happening with this general, because there were all kinds of like mutants out here. And he's like, you're cray, because that guy's right over here. And flash forward, there's the general being like, yo, put some missiles in Turkey. And
Azazel teleported him. The teleport mutant was able to teleport him to the war room, so he was present in two locations at once, basically.
Right, and they're convincing him. He's convincing the U.S. to put missiles in Turkey, which is going to kind of put things to it's going to be brinkmanship. It's going to start, inching towards World War III, which, surprise, surprise, spoiler alert, is Shaw's end goal, is to have World War III. So, anyways, Moira is like, we have to go and find someone to prove this to the CIA so we can like act on it. So, who do they find? Charles Xavier, professor of genetics. He's getting shithoused, which is because he's like real cool. While Eric's off killing Nazis, he's just like drinking beer all day and acting like a doofus. She comes over and is like, you got to help me. So, he is like, okay, fine, goes to the CIA with her. Him and Raven are trying to convince them to like let them help them. And they're like, this is all crazy. You're all crazy people. This is why a woman can't be in the CIA. Like, get out of here. And they show them their powers, and that convinces them. And who's there to pick it all up? Oliver Platt, who's like, come with me. We're going to use this. I have a special operation. You're going to come to Division X and help me out. And then they find something about Shaw almost immediately, right? And decide to act at that moment. They're like, we can't wait. We got to act on this intel. And so before even going to Division X, they head off. They find Shaw on his yacht, where he's just killed the general and done all kinds of nefarious things. And right as they're getting there, though, who shows up but Magneto? And he's ready to take matters into his own hands. But unexpectedly, this is a little weird. Again, this gap between when he was with Shaw and then hunting down Shaw. Apparently, he never realized that anyone else was mutants, because he's like totally surprised that Shaw has mutants with him, and surprised that Shaw himself is a mutant. So none of that was apparently.
Yeah, this is pre-Cerebro, which does actually get introduced in this movie as well, which allows for Professor Xavier to create sort of a network of mutants where he can keep tabs on everyone and find where mutants are located. And that ends up coming into play in a little bit here with recruiting some team members.
Yeah. So anyways, they're going to attack, but I think Whirlwind kind of does the first thing and kind of like tosses away all the CIA boats. But Magneto, using his anger, he's in the water. Using his anger, he like lifts up the anchor, spins it all around the yacht, and Shaw barely escapes. How does he escape? How's he escape, guys?
Zach, you want to jump in here?
Which part was this?
This is when they're on the yacht and then they escape, and it has something to do with the podcast we're doing.
I'm thinking of the scene that's later in the movie. Did I miss it?
Hey guys, this part was cracking my shit up. This is Zach. This is when the this is when the submarine was deployed from the bottom of the yacht.
You and I think we were talking when the first submarine showed up.
So yeah, I know you saw the scene.
You had to have seen the rest of it because it's a huge plot point now because the submarine gets deployed.
Is this when Michael's underwater trying to stop it, and then X-Man King comes down there and grabs him, whispers in his ear.
Magneto, aka Michael,
aka Magneto, aka Eric.
Yeah,
he uses his rage and magnetic powers to follow the submarine along, but he's going to drown. He's so blinded by his rage, he's going to drown. So Charles Xavier dives into the water after him and uses his mind powers to convince him to let go. And they actually rescue him, and they tell him, like, we want you to be part of what's going on here. And Eric's pretty clear, like, I just want to kill him, so be prepared for that. And they're like, no, you're going to join our team, and we're going to do it together. And he's like, fine, okay. And that's when they finally head off to Division X. And as you said, they kind of meet the scientist there, who will come to know as Beast. But he is just at that point a young scientist with special monkey feet, basically.
Yeah, I wondered what the hell that was about.
Well, that's because he's Beast, and he's real smart. He's super smart. And he actually at that point, the Oliver Platt character didn't even know he was a mutant, but Charles Xavier kind of outed him, and like revealed that he was a mutant, even though he wasn't, because I guess Oliver never went to the beach or anything like that. So
that's what I was thinking, like swimming.
Yeah. There's never any of those like, hey, get in the pool, man. And he's like, no, you know what? I'm fine. Don't worry about it. So anyways, as you said, Hanks also, aka Beast, has also built Cerebro, a kind of a preliminary Cerebro, and hooks Charles
also
into
built the SR-71, which is
how
the X-Men get around in all the comic books and movies.
Yeah, the plane. And he's also interested in Raven as well, because he's convinced that Raven's shape-shifting ability, whatever's the gene is that allows her to do that, would allow them to also mask their outward appearances without mitigating their powers. And so he's like really interested in that. And at first Raven is as well. Like she also would love to kind of just look the way she looks and, have Charles fall in love with her, or Hank, because they have kind of a love interest thing going on as well, without having to always kind of pretend or have her mind on being someone else the whole time. So anyways, they use Cerebro and they start a recruiting thing. It's actually a montage, which was both, I thought, good and bad. I didn't totally love the montage, and part of it was I didn't actually totally love any of the characters, any of the mutants that they were recruiting. It's like a real second tier, lower bench guys. I mean, I think some of the people are kind of big, but it's none of the ones that you kind of know.
Yeah, I think it's because of the time frame. A lot of the X-Men exist in the contemporary era, 90s, 2000s, and today.
Right. So they would have been teenagers in like the 70s and 80s or something like that. So here it was just a little too, it wouldn't have made any sense to have like a young Storm, because then in the 90s, she would have been like.
They actually showed a lot of those characters. I can't think of who they all are offhand, but I think they showed Storm in Cerebro as she was in there as a young girl.
They showed Cyclops, which was weird because what they showed in Cerebro didn't match Cyclops in the
Days of Future Past.
In the Days of Future Past, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he obviously
they get his
powers
brother
developed.
though. I think Havoc's his brother.
Yes. Well, no, because like the thing is, what they show of Cyclops is him as like a baby wearing sunglasses already. Even though in the next movie he develops, or in the third movie or whatever, he develops his powers later.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's kind of besides the point.
I enjoyed the montage. Just and perfect as you put it. You're just dealing with second tier X-Men, which is what was kind of boring.
Is there anyone you would have liked to see though, knowing X-Men? Actually, Zach, this is a better question for you. Any X-Men that you would have liked to see?
Any X-Men I would have liked to have seen?
Yeah, any particular X-Men?
Yeah, who's your favorite X-Men, Zach?
It's gotta be the big green guy. Is there big green? No, that's Hulk. Never mind.
The Hulk, right? Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's favorite X-Men.
No. I remember back in the 90s, I was playing a Super Nintendo game, probably called X-Men something on the Super Nintendo. And
the one where they kind of fly around as like X-Men.
Yeah, but I remember my favorite character in that game was some dude who like wore blue and yellow, and he had like laser beams coming out of his eyes.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
Cyclops.
Cyclops.
Yeah,
He was
So
cool.
you would have like baby Cyclops.
Yes.
Well, the problem ends up being that Cyclops in most of the movies is like super lame.
Yeah.
He's like the real lame-o. So you picked a lame character, Zach.
Well,
Sorry.
I'll just go
We do
X-Men myself.
X yourself, yeah. We do get to see one of the classics, though, in a great cameo, which really elevated the
Oh, yeah.
montage for me. Zach was a little confused by it, but as an X-Man fan, this was really cool to see when it was in theaters. When I saw this, they drop in on Wolverine, who would be, in between wars and whatnot. He's in a bar, and they approach him, and in perfect Wolverine fashion, they introduce themselves to Logan, saying, I'm Professor Xavier and I'm Eric Lensher. And he goes, "Go fuck yourselves." And they just say, "Oh, okay." And they walk out. And he goes back to smoking and drinking.
And that counts on his tally of how many times he's portrayed Wolverine. Do you know the only one that they don't count for that tally?
They don't count a portrayal.
Yeah, of Wolverine. So in one of the Deadpool movies, his only appearance is actually reused footage from Wolverine Origins.
Oh, okay.
And they don't count that because it was part of the joke, is that he didn't even act in it. They just used these reused scenes from a different movie that actually Ryan Reynolds was also in. Like he was in
Right.
Wolverine Origins. So
Yeah.
it was like a joke. It was used as a joke, so they don't really count that as him portraying Wolverine because he didn't act in it.
Sure.
Anyways, so we'll continue on. So they kind of get some intel that Shaw is probably going to meet with this general in the USSR. And you also see a brief scene of Shaw up in like the Arctic. And they're just kind of chilling there for a little bit. And so they decide, okay, we're going to follow him out there. And him and Eric, so Eric and Charles and Moira go out to this place in the USSR. It turns out, though, that it's kind of confused because actually January Jones's character is the one that's going there. Shaw's going elsewhere. So they kind of screw it up. And they're like, oh, damn, we screwed it up. We got to leave. But no. Eric's not having any of that. He's gone too far to do this. And he runs out there, more or less kills a whole bunch of people. He doesn't actually kill them, but he basically does. Mm-hmm. And gets in there. And there's Emma Frost kind of hanging out while she's like manipulating this USSR general, not in the way you think, actually mind manipulating him, making him think, physically manipulating him, but mind manipulating him. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we got
You know what I'm talking about, Zach.
Yeah, man.
And right.
Telepathy.
And they bust in, they kind of trap her. She turns to Diamond, but Magneto uses his like strong Magneto muscles and totally like subdues her. And they are able to actually like capture her and get some intel on what the overall plan is. And they do this kind of silly little video kind of showing it where they very explicitly show him being like, and my plan is missiles in Cuba.
Yeah.
And we're like, whoa.
Shows him on the map moving the missile like magnet
He's
to
hitting
one
it.
location.
Cuba.
Loved how the map was just straight up all blue United States, all red Russia, and that was just it.
He's like,
And so-
I hope nobody has a spy camera in here because this would be really awkward if anyone has footage of me moving this missile over to Cuba.
Right. And so, they, at this point, does Shaw visit USSR first, or does he go and capture the mutants first, or attack the place first? I actually can't remember the order of this.
We get an introduction scene of each of the mutants that they were able
Right,
to recruit at the what is this? Would you say FBI or CIA? I forget already. CIA.
It's a CIA, yeah.
Yeah, and so we learn that they've got a taxi driver turned potential hero here in the form of Darwin, who can adapt to survive, is how he says it. So whatever environment he is in or elements he's experiencing, his body adapts to it. So he can grow like a thick layer of hide. He can grow gills if he's in water, that kind of stuff. They get Angel, who is played by Zoe Kravitz, who was formerly a stripper and now is going to put her talents on display. She can fly. She grows these like dragonfly wings.
And she can spit fire, too.
She can spit little, energy balls, fireballs. They get Havoc, who is Summer's brother. So brother of Cyclops, and he has energy. So Scott can shoot out of his eyes, and Alex can shoot it like out of his chest, and he doesn't have like full control over it just yet, but he's got that. Of course, we've got Mystique. Jennifer Lawrence takes the name Mystique. She's the shape changer. Beast. I don't think he's given himself a nickname yet. Played by Nicholas
no one knows
Hoult.
he's Beast yet.
And then the last one is Banshee, who is this goofy-looking ginger kid.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I actually like him as an actor. Like, he's a really good actor, but I didn't love his character very much.
Yeah.
And his power was the silliest one of them all, because he can kind of fly around with his power, but
he
it
can
looks real dumb while he
screech,
does
and
it.
he's like a really powerful screech that he's able to use to kind of levitate himself later on, and they also use it for sonar purposes later on as well.
Right.
But yes,
And so anyways,
Sebastian
yeah.
Shaw breaks up the party.
Yeah, so they come in, they kill all the, I shouldn't say humans, all of the non-mutants in the entire place, including Oliver Platt, and enter the room, and they're like, we're not going to kill you, we're just giving you an offer here. You can join us or you can be against us, but you should have this opportunity to be like part of the future of mutants, because we believe that we are the future, and so why would I kill like my brethren or whatever? And so who takes it up? Angel. She decides, I will go with you. And so she leaves. Darwin decides, okay, I got to be the hero here. He says, I'm also going to go, and says, you know what? I adapt to survive, and this is how I'm going to survive. And then, he quickly is like, now, and Havoc tries to, shoot everyone, but because his power is able to harness energy, he just like harnesses that energy real quick and kills Darwin, which was a big outcry at the time.
Shaw does
for
this.
the movie. Yeah, Shaw
takes
the
Alex's energy and kills Darwin with it.
Kills Darwin. It's kind of an outcry because first he's the only like African American. Well, I guess not the only African American character, but one of the few African American characters in the movie, and he's almost immediately killed. And people like Darwin's power. It's a very powerful power. And so it seems like people were just like angry that you have this character that actually is kind of cool, and you almost immediately just like scrap it and say, oh, he died.
Yeah.
So he's gone.
Didn't get to do anything interesting with it because there's so much I think you could have done with it, as opposed to like Banshee, who's very narrow in the scope of what he's capable of. So
yeah. So anyways, they disappear. They use Azazel to disappear. The guys get back. Eric and Charles, they get back, and they're like, what happened? And they're like, well, they killed everyone. And he's like, well, this is over then. We're finishing this. And Eric's like, no, this isn't over. We still got to go after him. And so everyone kind of teams up and they go, yeah, we're going to do it. And they head back to actually Charles's mansion to do a training montage, like a true training montage of getting more and more powerful. So they're like harnessing their weapons and they're doing all kinds of stuff. Eric even like moves a giant satellite with his like Magneto stuff. So he's really like, he's realizing it's not just anger, but also like the border between anger and like good memories
serenity.
And shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys can just find that perfect, balance or whatever. So he's kind of learning, everyone's learning, about it. Beast is running real fast and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, Shaw is really getting stuff in motion because he goes over to a USSR general and is like, yo, put some missiles in Cuba. And he's like, come on, no. And Shaw's like, really? Check out my mutants. And he looks over at some mutants and he's like, all right. And so they decide, okay, they're going to put some missiles in Cuba.
I do want to jump in here before we get too far from the montages and training and everything. It's kind of around this point that Michael Fassbender's character Magneto is really starting to say all of the things that Mystique is wanting to hear. So Jennifer Lawrence has always been, confused about who she wants to be, how she wants to look. She's not accepted. And Magneto's saying, you're beautiful just the way you are, kind of deal.
You're beautiful. What's that song?
Yeah, beautiful.
There we go. There we go. So we needed to get that in there.
James Blunt.
Yeah, because this. So yes, and at the same time that's kind of happening as well. Beast, aka Hank, he actually finds the cure for their outward appearances. So he's also kind of battling that same thing that Raven's always been talking about. But now Raven's like, no, I don't want it. Like she's kind of finding out that she wants to be who she is and not be afraid, and that if people won't accept it, then you have to kind of fight it. You can't just like hide. But like Hank's not hearing that. He doesn't want to be like perceived as different. He wants to be normal. And so, or at least appear normal. And so he tries this new serum on himself, and he turns into like a full blown beast at that point. Like he actually unleashes the full potential of his mutant gene. And so he's got all the classic blue fur and all that kind of stuff, and looks basically like I shouldn't say a monster. He looks like a very good and honest hero, right?
Yes.
Is that what we want to say? Oh, sorry. Yeah, a good and honest monster. Yeah. So anyways, they're all like snazzed up. Raven's like totally smooching on Eric, which is a little weird because Eric's probably like 20 years older than her? I don't know. Something like that. And especially like later it becomes like Ian McKellen. He's like an old man.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Smooching up on like Rebecca
Romaine.
Romaine, yeah.
Yeah. Which she does become for a brief moment when she's trying to seduce the Fast.
Oh, that's right. That was a good one. So anyways, they realize with the Cuban Missile Crisis that obviously this has been Shaw's plan. They already knew it. So they are like, okay, where should we find him? Well, obviously he's going to be there because this is too big of a plan to let to go to waste. And if there's going to be missiles, he'll also want to like harness that power and stuff like that. So he's probably there. Let's go out there. So they get on their plane. Beast is there being a beast. They're flying all around, zipping around in their special plane or whatever. And Shaw is on a submarine. Thank God. We don't get a huge amount of submarine, but enough to feel quite good about it. And he's zipping around a submarine. They're basically setting it all up to be the start of World War III. But in come the X-Men and kind of screw it all up. Xavier Charles, he like convinces or telepathically forces a guy on one of the ships to destroy the cargo ship with missiles.
Yeah, it's like a political officer who's all about starting World War III, but he ends up getting mind controlled by Professor X to fire the missile that ends up sinking the ship that's about to cross the embargo line that's been hijacked by Azazel.
Yeah, and then they follow that up. Magneto, using his newfound strength with his power, pulls the submarine. Once they find it, they use Banshee to find the submarine. They pull the submarine out of the water, and I remember this being a very cool scene. Even the first time I saw it, they pull the submarine out. They're kind of pulling it along. Whirlwind comes out and like messes it all up, and so both the plane and the submarine crash onto the beach, and kind of starts the all-out brawl that ends the movie, or the climax of the movie, where Charles is trying to figure out and control or get into Shaw's mind in order to stop the ultimate goal of World War III. Because at that point, Shaw is just trying to use the power of the reactor in the submarine to like do some explosions and cause World War III anyways. And
but he's got the Magneto helmet on.
Yeah, he's got the Magneto helmet on, so he can't get into. So he has to send Magneto in to try to figure that all out. And so he goes in there, and of course, they have this personal past a little bit from when they were in that concentration camp, and Shaw was like using him as a scientific experiment of sorts. And so he's like, "You're going to come with me. You're going to be like part of what we do." And he kind of momentarily Eric tricks him into thinking everything's fine, and he uses his power to snatch the helmet off real quick. And once he snatches the helmet off,
he takes like a cable, so he's got the metal in the cable because he can't affect the helmet, but he uses a broken, like torn wire with all the copper and everything in it, and he brings it over like a little spidery little hand and snatches the helmet off. So,
can you describe more of that hand? How spidery is it?
It's got little tendrils coming out that wrap and like latch onto the helmet.
Ooh, yeah, say a little bit more.
And I think we got it.
And so then Charles zips into Shaw's mind and freezes everything. And unfortunately, it's at the same moment that Shaw was also like demonstrating why he was captain of the submarine. So we have this whole scene where he's frozen and it's just his captain dicks hanging out. You're like, Jesus Christ. Like, I can't believe he decided this moment to show this off, like whatever. So the whole time you're kind of like trying to shield your eyes a little bit to like the bottom half of the screen. It was too bad. And but
I had the closed captioning on, so it covered it
okay, so it covered it up. Good.
Yeah.
But so at this moment, obviously, Charles realizes that probably things are going to go a little awry because Eric's been telling him like over and over again that he's just going to kill this dude. And so he uses the coin, which, I mean, it's actually
he
like,
puts the Magneto helmet on.
Yeah.
So that
he puts the Magneto on. He can't get control either.
He can't be controlled by Professor X, and Professor X maintains control on Sebastian Shaw.
And he uses the coin.
And he says, I'm going to kill you on the count of three. Yeah,
move on the count of three. And very slowly moves this coin through the air. And even though it's going so slow, it's the force of the coin. He just pushes it straight through Shaw's head.
Pretty wicked, you know?
Yeah.
For like a villain death.
I mean, I think if you took it, it's like almost like a sandwich, like or a hamburger. We have two buns on either side. Do you know what the hamburger looks like, guys? Should I describe it a little bit more? So there's two buns on either side, right? There's meat in the middle. There's like lettuce.
Wait, Jamie. Yeah, yep. Can I get tomato on this?
You can also, sometimes people do put tomatoes on there.
Okay.
What else do you want? Do you want some ketchup?
Is it weird to get pickles?
No, put some pickles on there.
Okay.
What kind do you want a sesame seed bun? Or
oh my God, no.
Okay, sorry. Not to insult you, come on. But anyways, you're kind of sandwiching this with like really kind of dark beginning, and this where you're watching it, and I was just like, holy shit! Like to have a comic book movie kind of end with that kind of startling ending of a guy pushing a coin through someone's forehead.
And it's almost justified too.
Yeah, you feel kind of like this guy's like a monster. And to have that kind of bookend, a middle that's more or less pretty typical of like a comic book is crazy. It's really crazy and pretty amazing. I actually thought it's really interesting and dark how they did some of these scenes. I
love the cinematography on that shot too. It's hard to describe it on a podcast, but they actually kept jumping back and forth from like a side view of Sebastian and Charles. So it kept cutting back and forth, but keeping the same momentum as the coin was moving in slow motion through the head, basically, of both, because Charles was kind of in the head of Sebastian when this was happening. So they're both kind of feeling the pain of it in some capacity, although it's only going to end up killing Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah. So anyways, fearing the mutants, realizing that there's mutants and fearing them, both the US and the USSR decide we better just destroy these people. And they send a whole bunch of missiles flying at them. But Magneto, being Magneto, he stops them, turns them around and starts sending them back. And Charles is like, you can't kill all those innocent people. You can't send them back that way. And so he's like fighting them. He's actually like, it's like a duke out, like just like punching fight, not like superpower fight. And trying to stop him. And he keeps on, it's kind of faltering and some of the missiles are falling away. And it only stops in the end when Moira shoots a gun at him and he ricochets one of them and it shoots Charles. And devastated because you really do get the sense that Eric respects and likes Charles, just they disagree fundamentally about how mutants and and non-mutants are going to interact in the world and what's safe for mutants to interact with non-mutants. And so like he's devastated and that drops all the missiles. And they kind of have this very long scene. And actually this is where I felt like the movie should have just ended maybe because there's some real silly stuff that happens after this. You have a scene where basically they reveal, I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my legs. I can't feel my legs. Oh, Charles Xavier. It's like over and over again.
My hair is falling out. I can feel my hair falling out as we speak.
Yeah. And so I was just like, Jesus Christ. And they do a whole bunch of stuff at the end like that. I mean, you get a scene where basically Raven / Mystique joins with Eric and the bunch of the people who are going to leave and be part of his group. They jump away. With Azazel, and then everyone else is there, and they're like cradling Charles. And we get an end, and so first we get this whole thing of being like, "Hey guys, he's now in a wheelchair." Am I right, guys? What? And everyone's like, "Cool." And then he's like, "I'm gonna start up a school." And Moira's like, "You're no longer G-Men, you're more like X-Men." And everyone's like, yeah, cool. What the fuck? I was like, that is the worst, and you should have cut that. It's almost like in the Fantastic Four movie, which no one saw. But at the end of Fantastic Four, they're like, what should we be called? And they're saying all this stuff, and one guy goes like, we're pretty fantastic. We're like the Fantastic Four? And that's how it ends the movie. He's like, no, don't do that. So anyway, he's like, I'm going to start a school. And then he like kisses Moira and then erases her memory. And this is the thing that doesn't make any sense with the next movie. Cause the next movie, she doesn't even know who this person is. Like she doesn't know who Professor, X is at all. And, even though clearly the CIA would have been talking about him for like a whole bunch. Like, obviously everyone else still knows who he is. So I forgot that would make zero sense. That she would obviously know who he was.
Yeah.
But anyways, they erase her memory, and she kind of goes back and says, yeah, I don't remember anything anymore. And Magneto kind of shows up at the very end in his full suit, which actually looks pretty corny. I don't think he even uses that suit.
I thought it looked so corny.
Yeah, and I don't think they don't use that suit. They didn't use that suit for any of the other movies. Really? I mean, they use a version of the suit, but not like,
they went straight. They went straight from the comics with that, and it just looks way better on paper.
Like,
I think than on film.
Magneto, and he says it like straight to the camera, and I'm just like, gross. Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Stop it. Just end the movie. Like, your movie was fine. Just stop it for the love of God. As they kept on doing things, I was waiting for them to go back to.
I haven't seen Days of Future Past in a while, but they don't really bring any of these other villains into the fold, I think, either. He's kind of like building a team, but they kind of abandon it.
No, they very briefly show that they were like the first group that was tested on by Stryker.
Oh, okay.
So, like, they show Azazel, and he's dead, which sucks, because Azazel's great.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
And Angel's killed almost immediately. Like, they have her as one of the ones that was experimented on, and so they get rid of pretty much everyone in the original team. But yeah, and that's it. I mean, we did go a little long on that. We could have gotten a little sonar thing, but it is a jam-packed movie, and I just wanted to make sure we hit all the stuff.
Yeah, I think we did pretty good there.
So who wants to start on a little ratings?
I'll go ahead and do it again, introducing this film as part of my movie month here. I've watched this one a handful of times. Big X-Men guy. I mentioned it's about probably my fourth favorite in the series. My favorite would have to be X2, followed probably by Logan, X1.
And that's not your countdown? Your countdown's
not my countdown. No.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would agree with you. X2 is my favorite. That's the best. I think that's the best of all of them.
Excellent. And once again, another great portrayal of Magneto and the tough decisions that he has to make. And he kind of joins the X-Men for that movie. So they really explore gray areas again. So a lot of fun. I love Magneto. And then followed that by Logan, X1. And then I think probably this one or Days of Future Past are kind of neck and neck there.
I think Days of Future Past is better than this one. After viewing it, although I will say portions of this may be the best of the entire thing. Like, I think parts of this are the best they've done.
Yep, there's some great moments in this one. As I just said, I love Magneto's character, and they really, as opposed to the cookie cutter action hero movies and superhero movies where it's good versus evil, Magneto sort of exists as something in between, where his family was murdered at the hands of Nazis right in front of him, and he wants to exact revenge. So it's hard to not appreciate what he's trying to do there. But as he often does, he has sort of the fatal and tragic error at the end where he achieves what he wants and then pushes it one step again too far, and then becomes the villain that he was seeking out to stop. So really interesting character and story arc with him, as well as really cool just to kind of see the origin story for a lot of the characters in the X-Men universe. There were some cheesy and hokey moments. I thought like the characters kind of introducing their powers and everything, kind of like the feel-good moment was kind of clumsy and awkward, as you alluded to, Jamie. I mean, even I get that you can't go with anyone that has already kind of been in the other movies because you're going back in time here, so you got to bring in some other mutants, but still it really felt like these were the B-tier mutants, and if you have the power of Cerebro working for you, I feel like you could have found some more potent mutants. Also was a little confused why Magneto didn't try to turn on Sebastian Shaw when Sebastian shot his mother in the concentration camps.
I don't think he can control. I think that the implication at the end with him using the coin to do the killing at the end is kind of this idea that obviously he could have, if he knew how to use his power and control his power, he could have shot that coin or really any metal object straight through him like a bullet. But he had no control at all. Mm-hmm. So all he could do was crush everything around him. And that's it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I thought the same thing. It's like, oh, send that coin. I thought for sure what would happen is that he would put the coin in his hand and then you'd see him smush it and it'd be chocolate. that basically there was no way he could move
Oh, that would have been cool.
the coin.
A chocolate coin.
That basically he didn't care about moving the coin. The point was he was going to shoot his mother and then he was going to move everything else.
That would have been actually
but it
really
didn't
cool.
wasn't that.
Man, you should be a writer, Jamie.
Maybe I should. And actually, should we rewrite this movie? Should we just rewrite it and reboot it?
Just to get that chocolate coin.
do it.
Hey, I don't hate it.
I cast myself as probably Cyclops because I'm real lame. I don't know if anyone I'm real lame, but also like classically handsome. And I wear sunglasses everywhere. So
Got to be a stick in the mud like he is in the original trilogy too.
yeah. I am.
Well, like I said, let's see it.
So what was your score? Did you say a score?
I did not say it. I'm going to give this a fun movie, a fun franchise. I'm going to give this a 7.25.
Ooh, wow. I'm going to come in right around there. I'm going to be coming in at a 7. I swear to God, I would have given it a 7.5 if it wasn't for that goddamn ending because it is awful. And they should have just cut that thing right when he gets shot and the missiles fall and the humans are cheering and he's crying and they say, I got to go. And he says, go Raven, go with Magneto. It should have just ended there. And then you pick it up in the next movie. But they just couldn't leave it like that. They had to put all this goddamn extra bullshit on there. I hated every moment that was all like the fan service stuff.
Yeah.
Every time it was like, don't touch my hair. And it's like, God, just don't, please. Like, just stop. Just for the love of God, stop. All of it's like, stop. This is new and not supposed to be, lame. So just stop being lame. But I really loved the beginning. I loved the beginning. I loved the end. I thought the kind of playing with morality and good and bad was just really, really nicely done. Because even when you have someone like Magneto who's killing people and doing these kind of terrible things and openly says, I want to be an antagonist to non-mutants because they will never accept me, you still find yourself sympathizing with them because you look at his life and the comparatively Charles Xavier's cushy life, and you go, well, of course you would think this way, and it's not. I mean, sometimes in some ways, I don't blame him because everything's gone so.
He was singled out for
like,
being a Jew during World War II, and now he's going to be singled out for being a mutant in a future Holocaust that he kind of foresees.
Right, and so like, I think playing with that kind of morality is what they've really have tried to play out with the Marvel universe as well, but in I think a little bit less interesting way, just from, there it's obviously these powerful, rich, not mutants, but, superpower people who, superheroes who kind of have everything. I mean, they're basically, you see them being like the richest, most famous, powerful people. And then they have to deal with the fact that, we're also powerful and we kill people. Isn't this suck for everyone? And it's like, well, no, actually, I'm much more interested in Magneto over there who was in the Holocaust. So, I mean, that's definitely a more interesting story and way to like do this than, a bunch of rich people sitting around or whatever. So like, I think it's an interesting way they did it, and I really enjoyed that. The middle portion of it, I mean, some of it seemed it seemed like they almost struggled a little bit of cutting down the narrative, to the lean 2 hours and like 11 minutes that this movie was. I'm sure there's a cut of it that's like 3 hours long or something like that, because there were scenes that seemed to end abruptly, and they did seem to kind of like shoot things along, real fast in the middle, try to get to the end in a very complex plot. But I thought that book ending of it with the Magneto portion of it was just too good not to love. And if it wasn't for the ending, I'd be at 7.5. I think I'm going to end up at a 7.
All right. Still a respectable score. Zach, what did you think of your first foray into X-Men?
So, how do I want to approach this? I'll try to keep it short, but when it comes to any superhero movie in the last 20 years, I'm very critical of those movies, and I typically really can't stand them, except maybe Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. However, The Dark Knight Rises, I think, was terrible. For my first ever X-Men movie, it was way better than I expected it to be, honestly. And I think that's because of the cast. I mean, what was it? Jennifer Lawrence, Kevin Bacon, Fassbender,
McAvoy.
I love all those people. So had those have been like no names, like the other, like the side superheroes, I think I probably would have hated it, given it a 4. But I really liked kind of the, like you were saying, Jamie, was it Magneto? Magneto's backstory was really cool. And they definitely, it wasn't just action in your face. There was truly like like that moral ground of like, what's right, what's wrong, how far do you go? You know, like even at the end, right? Like they're shooting missiles at him. They're going to kill him. You know, damn right, throw the missiles back at him, blow up those ships. But, you know, maybe McAvoy was right. Who am I? What else do I have to say?
You're Zach with the backbone.
What else do I have to say about this movie? Okay, did it need a sub? Yes, because of the time frame we're talking about, it needed the sub action. You know, Cold War drama, Cuban Missile Crisis. I liked that, and then the fact that we actually saw someone use his mind to bring a submarine out of the water. I don't think that's happened in any other movie, right?
I don't think it has.
Nope.
Only in X-Men. So
Flying sub, check that off our list of tropes.
I thought that was pretty sweet. So I'm going to give it, you know, it gives me enough interest to watch maybe another one if I didn't hear your guys' descriptions of all of them already.
I would start over at 1. X1.
I might. Probably won't, but
I think if you did 1 and then X1 and then X2, I think that would be worthwhile.
Okay.
They have a very different feel. Like this didn't really have any of like the hand-to-hand combat and martial arts and things like that, and that's what is how the combat sort of plays out in 1 and 2. This is about two or three like just super overpowered mutants kind of battling of wits and, you know, mind control and stuff. So the first 2 movies are a much different feel.
Okay. But in the end, I'll just give it a, I guess my gut says 7. I'll do a 7.
Wow. All around pretty good. What do you think about the sub action in this, guys? Just briefly. Solid action.
I liked it.
More sub, less sub?
It could use more sub.
Yeah, I wouldn't have blamed Kyle for putting this in. Does it even really need a sub movie month? They could have gave him a different vessel, whether it's a boat or some a plane
stealth
or
fighter.
helicopter, something. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, in Fate of the Furious, that's what it was, right? Like it was kind of a stealth plane instead of the submarine.
Yeah.
Could have imagined Fate of the Furious it being that. In fact, is not Fate of the Furious exactly the same movie as this? Chew on that.
There's some there with Vin Diesel kind of filling in that gray area character.
Yeah, and especially at the end when Vin Diesel uses his magnetic powers to pull that submarine through the ice.
That's right. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. So definitely could have used a little bit more sub action and moving about the sub a little bit and seeing what it looked like. There's a little bit of that. There was some cool secret hatches and stuff.
I would have liked them to shoot a torpedo at least.
Yeah, that's true.
Just one torpedo. It actually would have been funny if when he lifted the submarine out of the water, they tried to shoot a torpedo and then just kind of fell out of the submarine.
Yeah. Yeah, what the hell?
All right, I'm going to get some trivia. So as you mentioned, you say, it seemed like there was X-Men movies every 2 years or so. That's true. And guess what else was every 2 years? Fast and the Furious movies.
Yeah.
That's because they've had a startling number of Fast and the Furious movies released the same year as X-Men movies. Let's go through them. X2 was released the same year as Too Fast, Too Furious. X-Men The Last Stand was released the same year as The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. X-Men Origins Wolverine was released the same year as Fast and Furious. X-Men First Class was released the same year as Fast 5. The Wolverine was released the same year as Fast and Furious 6. And then Furious 7 was supposed to be released in 2014, but was pushed after Paul Walker's death to 2015, making it the first one that deviated. Because X-Men Days of Future Past was released in 2014. I think then, since then, it's been a little off necessarily on what years certain things are coming out.
So you're saying blame Paul Walker.
Ooh.
That's what you said. That's your words. I don't blame Paul Walker for anything.
Controversial topic.
Controversial take by Jamie. So as of 2011, this is the highest grossing film ever made about the Cuban Missile Crisis. How about that?
Really?
Yep.
I mean,
and then the filmmakers hired an X-Men specialist to help the cast understand their characters.
Specialist? Wait. Do you have any more information on that?
I want to see what this guy looks like.
Zach, you're only a few movies away from putting that on your resume.
I want to see what an X-Men specialist looks like.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so there's a couple things we kind of mentioned a little bit. One was that this was supposed to be a Magneto origin stories and was supposed to actually be much more focused and go back and forth between present day and the past and kind of do that time around World War II and then do some, more concurrent or current time periods as well. But that ended up being scrapped in favor of kind of going to this more like teen X-Men version of it and starting up the young X-Men series. Additionally, we had mentioned that the person on the Soviet ship that ends up firing the missile is the Zampolit, the political officer, which I just wanted to mention in particular for what we see in these submarine movies, because the political officer is always like shit on. Everyone fucking hates him.
Yep.
And he sucks. And you can see how much glee. Right. You can see the glee on the captain's face when he gets to send the political officer to the brig for disobeying direct orders and shooting the cargo ship. Now we're going to get into some kind of like different casting stuff. Bryan Singer, he directed X-Men and X2. He was supposed to direct this, but had to decline due to a commitment to Jack the Giant Slayer, and he was replaced with Matthew Vaughn. But he stayed on as a producer, Singer. Additionally, there was some romance on the set. So Jennifer Lawrence and Nicholas Hoult, they began dating when they were shooting this film. As did Michael Fassbender and Zoe Kravitz, which I didn't even know.
Really?
I didn't know either of those couples were together at any point. But Lucas Till was originally cast as Beast, but decided against it when it would turn out that he'd have lengthy makeup sessions to be turned into the Beast for that portion of the filming.
Oh, but he could have been shagging Jennifer Lawrence, though.
It's true, but he was cast as Havoc instead. All right, and here's the casting what ifs, and I'm going to just ask you whether these people would have been good, because this is the first movie in a long time where we actually have enough casting speculation that we can actually just say, like, would you like to see this person in this? So Josh Hutcherson was supposed to appear as Cyclops, actually, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, he could do it.
What do you think of him?
I'm sorry, who?
I think it actually would have.
Who was this?
He was with
Hunger
Jennifer
Games
Lawrence in
guy?
Hunger Games. Yeah, he was like the love interest in Hunger Games.
Oh, all right, I guess.
He was the one everyone was like, no,
your favorite character,
Zach.
Zach. He could have been your favorite X-Men.
Right.
Oh.
Now this is one you guys won't know, but Broadway actor Benjamin Walker was actually cast as Beast, but dropped out to star on Broadway instead. And I only mentioned him because he was actually a star of one of the BMT films that we did, and he has like this weird puffy face, and it's real weird. So I just wanted to mention that.
What's his name?
His name is Benjamin Walker.
I find it weird that if somebody had, especially if you're not like a huge name, if you had lined up a main character, well, a main superhero character in a superhero movie, you would give it up, because I feel like that's like the thing that somebody wants, you know?
Yeah, I guess maybe not this guy. I mean, he was starring as Andrew Jackson in Bloody Andrew Jackson. So because it was like the main role of Broadway, I think he won a Tony for it and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So like, I think that was probably it.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing, he was Abraham Lincoln in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. That might be what you would know him best for. But okay, well, Amber Heard was rumored to play Mystique before Jennifer Lawrence was cast. So what about Amber Heard? Do you guys know Amber Heard?
I know her.
Yeah, Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Linked to Johnny Depp.
Possibly beat up Johnny Depp, or vice versa. No one will ever know.
Or vice versa.
Now, was this casting of Jennifer Lawrence, like, was this her big break, or was there something before this for her?
Okay. Yeah, no, she was nominated for an Oscar for, what's it called? The one, Winter's Bone.
Oh, wait, what was it?
Winter's Bone.
Okay, so I never saw that.
That was like her breakout thing. She was also on like a TV show before that. She was on like the Bob Engel show or something. But that was basically the big break was Winter's Bone. And then from there, she just had like hit after hit, kind of. What about Taylor Lautner? He was considered for Beast, but dropped out due to scheduling conflicts. I'm sure he wrote that on that. Like, oh no, I had to drop out, scheduling conflicts. Yeah, okay, Taylor Lautner. I'm sure you had to drop out because of
could have done it, but he would have been less bookish.
That is. What about Rosamund Pike? She was considered to play Moira McTaggart.
Oh, I was thinking of her for Emma Frost.
And later she was considered for Emma Frost. Yeah. I think she would have been good.
Oh, yeah. Way better.
For Emma Frost. And then what about Bryan Cranston? He was supposed to be Sebastian Shaw, but turned it down to be in Drive.
That would have been awesome.
Another person considered for Shaw was Colin Firth.
That also would have been pretty good.
And then last but not least,
What were you going to
Ed
say, Zach?
Harris. What were we going to say?
No, I definitely love a good Bryan Cranston, but you said Shaw, right? That's Magneto.
No.
No,
the
that's
bad
Kevin
guy.
Bacon. Yeah.
The main bad guy.
Oh shit!
Yeah, you're a big fan of Kev, though.
I like Kev. I love me some.
That helmet's really throwing Zach for a loop. Yeah.
And we're not talking about that piece of shit dog, right? We're talking about Kevin Bacon.
Just keep going.
That was the name of the dog, right, Kevin?
Kevin, yes.
There we go. Okay.
Kevin, and he loves bacon.
There we go. Perfect. What a piece of shit. All right, and then what about Ed Harris? So he was originally attached to play JFK, actually. He was going to be John F. Kennedy. But he left after creative differences on how he interpreted the JFK character. Like, he had a very strong, like, idea of what this character was going to be. And so they basically said, just be JFK. And he was like, no. He insisted that he would give his speech shirtless, right? And also he inserted a new catchphrase. Do you guys know what that catchphrase was?
Yo ma.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
No, it's let's punish these dweebs.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's what he said. He said the USSR. He said the USSR, let's punish these dweebs.
Let's punish these dweebs. Who'd they end up getting to play JFK?
They got JFK to play JFK.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That was a good get.
It was a good get. Actually, one of the trivia said that they changed one of the lines from his famous speech. I don't even know why, but they like made a minor change to like some of the wording of his speech.
To make it involve mutants or something?
I don't know. It seems weird.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? But anyway, so Phantom Zone, this is an easy one.
Engage the Phantom.
Phantom's engaged, sir.
And so I've kind of used this before going through Jason Fleming, who played Azazel. And we used him to go to Below, starring Johnny Depp, because he's in that one as well. But it also has Glenn Marshauer. I'm not sure why I didn't use that last time, because Glenn I've used a whole bunch of times. He's Landry's dad. He played the general in this one. He's in like a bunch of movies with submarines, so it's pretty easy to get to back to Phantom from there. Another thing that I found weird while I was doing this, I didn't even realize until I was doing it, but like McAvoy was in Submergence, right?
Yes.
And his co-star was Alicia Vikander,
Yeah.
who is married to
Michael Fassbender.
Whoa.
Weird, right?
I think
That's
you mentioned
weird,
that.
right?
I think you did mention that on the Submergence episode.
Yeah, it's just very strange. I guess I forgot. I forget all these things. Anyways,
He likes him young, unless he's way younger than he looks.
no, I
Michael?
think he's older than he looks. Yeah, you're talking about Mike?
Yeah, Michael.
His first movie on his filmography page was what, 300, right?
Fassbender?
Well, he was-
I
But he was
swear
in,
I
like,
looked
Band
him
of
up on
Brothers and
Wikipedia
stuff.
today. I thought his first movie ever was 300,
Huh.
which seemed
I'd have to
odd to
double
me
check
because that was in 2000 and something, right?
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Okay. Let us know what
He
you
is
find.
he is 42.
He's 42? Yeah. All right,
So
that's
that
not
actually
too bad.
does seem a little younger than I thought.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's younger
That he
than I
be.
would have guessed.
All right. Who's going to go first?
What are we doing?
Aren't we doing your countdown?
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if you were filling in for any news or subs
I didn't do
worldwide or
any of that
anything.
kind of
Okay,
shit.
No, I was just double checking. Countdown time. Tube 3 ready to fire, sir.
Commence the countdown.
Give it to me.
I just want to clue everybody in this week. It's going to go nice and swift here, especially since Zach probably won't be able to contribute much to this one.
Can I cut in?
Go ahead and cut in.
Michael, I got a hot Michael Fassbender update.
Okay. Let's hear it.
2006, 300, his first film.
Wow. Who did he play in that?
Stelios.
My favorite character.
Weird. Don't remember him in that. Thank you, though, Zach.
You're welcome. Now, that was another Michael Fassbender hot update with Zach.
Does that have a theme song?
We'll see.
All right. Let's keep that going, though. I look forward to hearing more next week. My countdown this week, however, giving you my top 5 X-Men. Just gonna
Wow, top 5 of all the X-Men ever.
of all the X-Men ever. These are my
Can I guess?
5 favorite.
I'm going to guess your number 1. So just give a little pause when you do your number 1.
He's pretty popular, but I don't think you'll get it. Number 5. Got to have a little bit of diversity on here, but I think she makes the cut regardless. Is Psylocke.
Oh, so that was played by
look up these people.
Olivia Munn, if you want to
Olivia
talk
Munn,
about the movies. I've been a fan of her for longer, back to when I had my Sega Genesis. I enjoyed playing her character on X-Men Cyber Wars, I think is what it was called. She has the unique ability to construct weapons out of her kinetic energy that she creates. So she creates usually like a sword or blade or something like that. Also has the power of telepathy and telekinesis. Real name is Elizabeth Braddock, but number 5 is Psylocke.
Okay, I looked up a picture of her. All right, I got it.
I liked Olivia Munn actually as Psylocke in the other movies. I thought she was actually better than I would have expected.
She looked great.
Yeah,
looked fantastic. Number 4. Did you say something, Zach?
I said I had to look her up to see what she looked like, and this definitely looks like a female character created probably by a man at some point.
I think that's going to be most of your comic book characters. Number 4 is Colossus.
Oh, now Colossus in the comic books. You may mention this, but Colossus in the comic books was Charles's brother, right, or something?
I don't think so. No, he's a Russian. Real name is Peter Rasputin. But there's so many different comic universes, even within X-Men, different runs and series. So he's different in every one. So I mean, he could be related to some of the X-Men. I think he's even a gay LGBT character in one or two of the X-Men series, but his power is to transform his body into steel. I don't think it's like adamantium or anything. I think it's like steel. It gives him that superhuman resilience.
So this was the guy in Deadpool, right?
Yes, he did appear in Deadpool.
Okay.
He was also in the original trilogy as well. I think he showed up in number 2 was the first one he showed up in.
He also showed up in the second Mortal Kombat. I think his name was Jackson that though, and he had metal arms and he punched people real hard, right? He punched an alien at one point.
That might be a different character. I think we're talking about.
Yes, and Professor Xavier's brother was Juggernaut.
Yes, there
Colossus
you go.
Juggernaut. I messed it up.
Yes, similar though, big brawler character. But yeah, the Juggernaut doesn't make the cut. But yes, very famous brother, and also has a helmet that is able to keep out Charles Xavier's telepathy powers. Number 3, only X-Men to appear in the movie that we just watched, and it is Magneto. I already have been raving about him. Great character that always kind of toes the line and kind of shifts back and forth between supervillain and superhero, kind of assisting the X-Men, and just always ends up having to push it just one step too far and become the villain that he was facing. But Magneto, Eric Lensher, as we mentioned too, has the ability to manipulate metal and magnetic fields, and that also gives him flight. By the way, he's able to manipulate magnetic fields, but very, very cool character. Number 2 did get mentioned, but did not appear in this, as he was probably not born yet or was too young, is Nightcrawler, Kurt Wagner.
I thought for a second you were going to say Cyclops, and I was like, what?
No, not Cyclops. Nightcrawler. He appears, I think, in the first movie in X2, but again, this goes back to my days as a kid playing on my Sega Genesis, playing as Nightcrawler, being able to teleport around the map and blow up people and all of that with all of his energy that he creates when he explodes from one place to another. Has a whole bunch of abilities besides teleportation, including increased agility, a prehensile tail, night vision. He's an acrobat from his time. I think he said he was in like the German circus or carnival.
Can I ask a question, Ben?
Yeah.
I looked up a picture of this Nightcrawler guy.
Yeah.
Isn't this just like the red guy we just watched a movie on?
Yes, and that's what we mentioned during the podcast today. He is the son of Azazel.
Must have missed that. Okay, got it. Probably because of the name.
That's okay. I think his mother in some of the series is Mystique, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
It is.
Mystique and Azazel.
They kind of mentioned it in reference to this one because they didn't have any moment where that seemed to be, it would make any sense. So,
Right. She,
well,
yeah.
somehow that happens.
What are you going to do? Number one, you said you want to take a guess, Jamie.
I did want to jump in. I think Nightcrawler is really high up there. He was like my favorite part of X2 and one of the big reasons why X2 was like such a great movie in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's like,
I loved it.
He's
What's
awesome.
What's that actor's name?
Alan Cumming.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Awesome portrayal. Liked him in X2 more so than the new Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Number one, you said you want to give it a guess though, Jamie?
Well, I was just going to give it a little Wolverine. You don't like Wolverine? I'm surprised he's not somewhere on that top five.
No, Wolverine's just a little bit overdone. I don't hate
too
him.
much?
But yeah, there's just a little bit too much Wolverine that it's just too much.
Yeah, so it's like a Shawn Mendes song. You're like, yeah, I like it, but you're playing it a lot.
Yeah, sure. Swap out Shawn Mendes with a lot of different music that I do get into that just gets played a little bit too much. But yes, Wolverine in that boat. I think he'd probably crack into my top 10 though. I think the creators of the MCU said that Wolverine is the only X-Men that would have been able to defeat Thanos, and I'm like, okay.
Can I
guess so.
Can I take a stab in the dark at your number one, Ben?
Sure, take a stab in the dark and name an X-Men that you know of, Zach.
Okay, I looked up a list of X-Men characters.
Okay.
And looks like there's probably at least looks like a couple hundred almost. But
Yep.
I'm going to go with the one, the only, the one that was introduced in, let's say, the 1970s. And I'm going to pick, it's got to be Darwin, also known, he's a mutant superhero appearing in Darwin. Armando
Darwin was in this movie.
Darwin, the one that was in this movie.
He's in this movie?
Yeah, he's the black guy.
Oh, the one that died?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was Darwin.
Can I take a stab? Can I take another
take
stab
your
in the dark?
stab, yes.
Is it Dark Stab?
It is not Dark Stab. Interesting guess, though.
I got one more
I
guess.
was taking a stab in the dark.
Okay, take one more stab in the dark.
One last one that I know for a fact is not in this movie. I'm going to go with the one, the only, Box. Madison Jeffries is a fictional character, a mutant superhero in the Marvel Comics. Box. Madison Jeffries. Uncanny X-Men number 505, 2009.
Can't say that I know Box. He is not my number one.
All right, that's all I got.
Good try. Good guesses. Those are really good guesses, Zach.
What is it? What is it then?
You don't have a dark. You said you don't have a stab in the dark, or you do, Jamie?
I did Dark Stab, but
Dark Stab.
we're also coming up against an hour and a half on this podcast.
All right. Well, I blame you on that because I was ready to churn through this. Number one is Gambit, the Cajun X-Men.
Oh, nice.
I gotta look him
Once
up.
again, very fun. X-Men pops up in a lot of the video games to play as. Is always depicted with the Ace of Spades that he imbues his kinetic energy in, and he throws the cards that cut through his enemies. And he also has the metal staff that he brings around as well. He charges that with his energy as well. He's an acrobat.
Never been super successfully adapted to film.
Has not. He appeared in X-Men Origins Wolverine, and there were talks to have Channing Tatum play him in a movie.
I Googled Gambit to see a picture of this guy, and I saw a ton of Channing Tatum pictures. So,
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping
Congratulations. Good for you.
that doesn't come to fruition. I really want a Gambit movie, but I just don't think they'll do it justice with Channing Tatum.
Who would you cast, Ben?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. I'd probably go with a deep hit. I actually really liked who they had chosen. What was his
Friday
name?
Night Lights guy.
Yeah, Friday Night Lights guy.
John Carter.
Yeah, John Carter as well. I know the roles that he was in. I can't think of his name right now. Taylor Kitsch, right? Yes.
There we go.
He has a very like a bony face, tough jawline. In his
Yeah, what about
pictures.
Taylor Lautner? What do you think of him?
Honestly, probably better than Channing Tatum for the role.
OMG.
What about Glenn Howerton?
Honestly,
Glenn Howerton.
he looks the part, but I can't imagine Glenn Howerton faithfully pulling off the suave badass that is Gambit. All right, that is my list, guys.
There it is.
I liked it. That's fun. It's just fun. It's fun.
Let's get some of those Zach facts.
Oh, it's delectable Zach facts.
Zach facts, it's Zach facts when you're going down. Zach facts when you're going down. Zach facts.
I will
right,
say,
wow.
Zach, I'm pretty sure Kyle is capable of putting the song in. But if you want to sing it every week, go for it.
Hey, as long as our fearless leader keeps skipping out on us, he's going to get what we give him, right? Right, guys? You're with me?
Sure.
Okay. Zach facts. Okay. Fact number 1. So, there was an actress before Morgan Lilly who played a young Mystique. At the beginning of the movie, you guys remember this scene?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
This other kid actress, she was cast as Mystique, as a young Mystique. She arrived early on set, her first day ever, to prepare for this scene. Early. The lights were still out. It was dark.
Yes.
But the security guard, while caught off guard, accidentally shot and killed her. So then they had to cast Morgan Lilly.
Whoa.
Oh, that is dark.
I can't believe we didn't hear more about that.
I know.
Rest in peace.
Dark facts.
Here's some more Zach facts for you. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this in the news or not back when this movie came out, but there was a lot of parodies. There was a lot of duplicates of this movie made, and not only in movies but in television as well. So, and I got a list of a few of them. Okay, so X-Men First Class, right? That's the name of the movie we watched. What you might not have known is that United Airlines released their own movie. The airplane company
Really?
released their own movie titled Jumbo 747 X-Jet First Class Only.
Wow. And it's also about mutants, or no?
I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see it yet.
You got to research that shit for the role here, man.
No, don't tell me what to do.
Okay, sorry.
Wait, you don't have to, but how are they going to hire you as the X-Men expert? Actually, I guess you should just be an expert, like an X-pert.
Yeah,
Ooh.
let's do that. But that
I
was
bet
just
that's
one.
what that guy's business card says if you get one.
Right.
There's
Yeah,
more.
exactly.
There's more. Now, you guys might know the man that's named George Lucas. Now, he wanted to make a spin-off movie titled Man in X-Wing, Rise of First Class Jedis.
He wanted to make it.
Yes.
Didn't get that one.
He hasn't made
He
it yet,
might. He might. There was also a never-before-released 10th Ernest movie titled Ernest X, Rides in First Class.
Ernest X, like Jason X, rides in first class.
Yes, if you want to compare it to that, yes.
I see.
Yeah, I think you're kind of getting into the Friday the 13th there with Ernest First Class, but it's the 10th movie. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Okay, there was also a TV court series spinoff titled Judge X-Man First Class Action Lawsuit.
Oh, okay. So is it a colon? So it's Judge
Yes.
X-Man colon first class action lawsuit?
Yes.
Or is
you
it
got it?
Judge X-Man the first colon class action lawsuit?
The first one you said.
First one, not the second. Interesting. Okay.
I didn't make the show. Now, the last fact I've got for you tonight is that as a lot of our movies have, of course, X-Men First Class did have a porn parody.
Oh,
Yeah.
The first one is called XXX Men First Ass.
Oh,
that's
but-
definitely believable.
interesting.
But we live in a day and age where if there's something that's for men, then we need something for women.
Oh,
And the
For the ladies.
and for men.
Ladies, my Mercedes.
And the other movie is called XXX Women, Cock in Class.
Cock in class.
Yes.
That's not a very
So,
good pun.
sorry. Cock,
Well,
C-O-C-K.
That one didn't have the budget
N-I-N.
like the first one did. So,
Did you say cock in class?
yeah, it's a school film.
It's not cock in ass?
No.
Oh, nice.
I'm just saying that it seems
Seems
obvious.
Yeah. I don't feel like that, regardless of how you do that one. I don't see how anyone would be able to translate that you're trying to make a parody on X-Men First Class. I think you're too far away from the source material there.
There's a bunch of mutants in a classroom getting freaky.
Thanks for listening to Submersion. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every Thursday. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating on iTunes.